want the jury to know, Sarah?
The former Alaska governor testifying in her defamation lawsuit against the New York Times.
For truth, in jail.
A federal judge announcing he plans to dismiss Sarah Palin's libel case against the New York Times. The judge ruled today that Sarah Palin had not proved the paper acted with malice when it published a 2017 editorial that included an inaccurate statement about her. Palin's lawyer said that statement wrongly suggested that Palin had incited the shooting against Congresswoman Gabby Giffords.
We've been in trial. We're obviously disappointed with the verdict. We're obviously disappointed with yesterday's order. That being said, anytime a jury convenes and renders a decision, that is our system. That what's allowing a private citizen like Governor Palin or anyone to seek redress against a giant media company that wields so much power.
Sarah Palin's defamation lawsuit against the New York Times has been dismissed. The case has been in progress since 2017, and a judge yesterday ruled that Palin's legal team did not provide enough evidence that an incendiary editorial by the New York Times was written with, quote, malice. Back in 1964, a famous defamation case, also against the New York Times, really set the standard for this type of lawsuit. New York Times versus Sullivan specifies that public figures who sue for defamation must prove that the offender knew the claim was false or showed, quote, reckless disregard for the truth. So let's back up to what the editorial actually said. In 2017, the New York Times editorial page ran an article called America's Lethal Politics, published in response to the shooting at a baseball practice that injured Congressman Steve Scalise. The purpose of the article was to address heated political rhetoric ahead of that shooting and reference the shooting of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords that had happened a few years prior as another example of politically motivated violence. The article falsely stated that there was a, quote, clear link between a map that Palin's Political Action Committee had published and the motive of Giffords' shooter. James Bennett, the editorial page editor at the time, acknowledged that he put the language of the clear link into the article, mistakenly assuming people knew he meant it as a broader political party issue and not a personal indictment of Palin herself. Quote, that is not the message we intended to send, he testified. The article was swiftly issued with a correction, but Palin sued the Times, asserting that it caused irreparable damage not only to her career, but to her psyche as well. The judge, in dismissing the case, acknowledged that it was a huge mistake on the part of the Times, but the judge ultimately said that, quote, my job is to apply the law. The law here sets a very high standard for actual malice, and in this case, the court finds that that standard has not been met. In this case, actual malice would have been proving that the Times knew the editorial was false and had a reckless disregard for the truth in this situation. Interestingly, though, jurors on the case were still deliberating when the judge made his decision, and he did not inform them of his plan to do so. And this is not something I knew a judge could do, and it'll probably give more fodder for Palin to keep up this lawsuit in other courts. But we should remind ourselves of why dismissing this case is so important to press freedom. A New York Times representative put it wonderfully in response that it is, quote, a reaffirmation of a fundamental tenet of American law. Public figures should not be permitted to use libel suits to punish or intimidate news organizations that make, acknowledge, and swiftly correct unintentional errors. This likely spells the end of Palin's lawsuit, but you never know where she could go from here. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow me on all platforms at Caro Johnson 917.